Hi, my name is Gary, and I'm bringing you Thomas, our correspondent overseas, or at least over flyover country in the middle of the
In a
United
different,
States.
yeah, in a different time zone.
Yes. Yeah, there we go. So, he has recently ventured off to a brand new convention called Kabochacon, which is a reference, of course, to Japanese pumpkins, which are really closer to squashes. But that's neither here nor there. And, let's get a too long don't read review from him. Thomas?
All right. Uh, in my opinion, the convention as a whole manages to pull off the family-friendly con, the con for all ages very well. In a lot of cases, you have a convention that says it's, good for everyone, but really what that means is it's good for people like small children and nobody else. I thought that this convention did a good job of striking a good balance of being acceptable for children and fun for children. We're still having a lot of fun stuff to do if you were older as well. One of the things that really stood out to me was how friendly everyone was, from regular attendees to guests to staff. Everyone was really friendly and inclusive, so it made the whole event a lot of fun. Everyone was pretty much just there to have a good time together. Overall, the convention was fairly small, which is what you'd expect from a first year con. But yeah, overall, I had a great time. So I would say if you know what you're getting into, and that is a family-friendly con that is still in its infancy, and that sounds like fun to you, it's definitely worth a visit. And based on those parameters, I'd probably rate it a 9 out of 10. As long as you know what you're getting into, it's definitely not for everybody.
What about as an overall? Like, if you are looking for a little bit more of that adult scene, would that change its rank at all?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just knowing what it is, if like that's acceptable for you, I would say it's a 9. But if you're looking for something else, but you'd still might be willing to check it out, I would say depending on how important size of a convention is to you, I would probably rate it a solid 7.
Okay. All
But
right. So, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but personally for me, I had a great time.
All right. Um, all right. So let's get down to the nitty gritty now for those people who can't swallow more than 3 minutes of YouTube. Bye. Um,
Yeah.
We're moving on. We're
Didn't
powering on.
didn't need you anyway.
Yeah. Well, let's. Hey,
Yeah, well, okay.
let's. There's a reason we service them too. You know,
uh,
we don't turn away customers. So
I'm sorry for everything. But,
yeah,
please keep watching our content.
You should be. So we're gonna jump into the nitty gritty. So, like, what time did you show up to the convention?
Probably sometime close to 9. The convention actually opened up. Sorry?
No, go ahead.
Oh, the convention opened up sometime around 8, but I had a bit of a drive to get there, and it was very early, and I didn't get much sleep. So I got there right around 9. It was still pretty empty. There was people starting to filter in, but it's, just shy of 9 a.m. at a convention. So I think most people that stayed in the hotel were probably still asleep, and most people that were attending it for the day were barely just starting to filter in.
Gotcha. And this was not day 0, correct? For this 2-day con, you were there for the final day.
Right. So they had day 0 Thursday night, and my understanding is that was pretty low key. Not a ton of people were there for that one, and then there was Friday, and then obviously the day I showed up, which was Saturday. So the last and by far the busiest, based on my understanding of the 3 days of the con.
Okay. So basically, you show up. What's the first thing you do when you get there? Do you hit a panel, gatherings, cosplay? What's the deal?
Registration first.
Yes. Good.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to cut. Yeah, I needed a badge. So
we don't sneak into cons, folks.
No.
Yeah, fortunately, they were actually kind enough to supply me with a badge. In fact, I got the one of a kind limited edition press badge. No other ones like it out there. So that was cool. Custom handmade, in fact.
I was about to say, why don't you elaborate on that story a
Yeah.
little bit more?
I
Because
mean,
there is a story.
they used commercial products like Scotch tape and Sharpies, so that you are in it to win it.
When you know you're official.
Yeah.
I'm holding on to that badge though. When this convention grows, that's going to be a hot ticket, limited edition item there.
There you
But
go.
yeah, no, they were nice enough to supply me with a press badge for this particular convention. So this was actually my first press badge. So that was an interesting experience. After I got that, I wandered around briefly and I went over to I kind of got my bearings for the different rooms they had. It kind of you kind of walk into the convention center and it kind of just snakes its way through. And the first panel I went to was actually in Mustang, which was the farthest away from the convention center entrance and closest to the hotel lobby. And that was the IO How Much in Animal Crossing panel, which I thought was a pretty amusing name if you've ever played Animal Crossing before.
Okay, so you hit the panel. Do you stay the whole time?
Yeah, no, I stayed the whole time, and I actually got a brief interview after the panel, which is on our YouTube channel currently, I believe.
Right. Yep, that has been uploaded. So you finish up with the panel. You do an interview. Where do you head next?
After that, I kind of just around, talked to people for a little while, and then I kind of swing by the gaming room really quick, and it was pretty empty. The retro gaming guys were out for lunch, and they hadn't returned yet, and there wasn't a lot of people there in general. I kind of wandered around for a little longer, and then I decided to go get a bite to eat because there wasn't a lot of food locally. There was the hotel's like sports bar, and then that was kind of it. So I ended up driving a few minutes up the way and got a sandwich and then came back. And when I came back, it was kind of a whole different environment because we're actually getting a little closer to like noon, 1 o'clock at this point, and definitely a lot more people filtering in. The gaming room is now packed with the retro gaming guys are back from lunch, and so their section's taken off, but also the board game section had really taken off at this point. And I made my way to the how to make cosplay armor for cheap panel that Jennifer Taylor was hosting, which was actually really interesting. She spoke a lot about the material she likes to use, and like a lot of it was craft foam, stuff like that.
Okay, so before you left for lunch, what were the cosplayers or the people the attendees doing for food? Were they also taking off and leaving the convention center? Were they sticking around and eating at the sports bar? Did you see a lot of them in the hotel? Like, what was the deal? What was going on with them?
Based on what I saw, it seemed like most people were going outside the convention center for food.
Okay.
As far as I could tell, the only place for food on site was the bar, like the bar restaurant area,
Right.
and that didn't seem to be as popular of an option. Probably for the same reason I didn't eat there, because I figured it'd probably be kind of expensive.
Right.
I did ask around to see if anyone had eaten there, and no one had actually. So I don't know.
All right, so you hit the panel. You talk about cosplay armor, which I know you're working on. You're talking about
Right.
doing some bigger armors for cosplay. Did you get an interview with her?
I did not actually.
Okay. Just didn't ask or too busy. What was the deal there?
I ended up needing to move on for some other things, and she was busy fielding questions and stuff like that for her panel as well. I did get some footage of the panel, but
Okay. So you head off there. Is that when you go talk to John?
yeah, that was basically when I went to go try to get a hold of John.
Okay.
I had a pretty
Explain
wide
who John is, by the way.
yeah, so John is John's the convention chair for this convention, and I had kind of arranged prior that I was going to interview with him. But a definite time hadn't been really nailed down. It was just like he should be available sometime before the masquerade. So I went over and talked to the people at ConOps, and they were like, "He's actually not here right now, but we will tell him you're looking for him, and just keep kind of checking back." And then I walked away. And then I wandered around for a little bit more, and then I started heading back towards them, and they were like, "You just missed him. He's looking for you." So I ended up running into him in the hall. They were like, "He's the dude in the staff shirt with the afro," and so he had kind of recognized my N7 jacket, and I recognized his afro. So we tried to do the
Wonderful
interview.
landmarks, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, my N7 Shepherd jacket gets recognized never in public usually, but at an anime convention, it gets recognized a lot. But anyway, so we went to the ConOps to do the interview, but it was kind of noisy in there, and my camera unfortunately picks up everything. So we ended up relocating to their staff suite, which they were kind enough to lend me for a few other interviews later on during the day. But you should definitely go check out our interview with John if you haven't already, because I thought it was a pretty informative interview behind the scenes of a convention that's just getting started.
Right. Yeah, and we have all this hosted on pretty much all of our websites, I believe, on our Tumblr, on our actual website, protakumedia.com, our Facebook. I think it's everywhere, right? So
should be easy to find, folks.
Yeah, it's not going to be a hard find. You're not digging for gold or anything. Okay, so the interview happens. What are you looking for when you're interviewing him? Like, why were you there?
I just wanted to get background on, what goes through someone's mind when they're starting a brand new convention. Like, what are some of the big challenges you face? Because, most people have never done it before, and most people don't have a lot of insight into, what goes into it, especially if you're not someone that's volunteered in the past to do it, or, to volunteer to do staffing or whatever at a convention. So I was mostly just trying to get that perspective.
Okay. Did you learn anything new? Anything exciting?
I did, actually. Apparently it's, somewhat complicated, which isn't a huge surprise. Business licenses and that sort of thing can be somewhat
murky,
complicated. Yeah, when you're trying to find the specific license you need for, your specific convention, stuff like that. Nailing down your venue. But when I asked him, what they were expecting or what he wanted to see in terms of population, he said more than one person. So I think he definitely hit his goals.
His goal, yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have any kind of attendee count yet?
Yeah, they do actually. Their attendee count was 222. So my understanding was from talking with you, Gary, that is actually a somewhat standard number for a first-year convention.
Yeah. Usually
it's in the ballpark.
Is pretty common for a beginning convention. Yeah.
So I was happy to hear that. I mean, I'd like them to succeed. So it seems like it's pretty common also for first-year conventions to not exactly break even while they grow their base. So I was happy to hear that they weren't like drastically under the average.
Okay.
But yeah.
So you plan on going next year then?
Oh yeah. No, I'd go. I'd pay to go. I'm there's a decent chance I'll probably end up staying for all the days for the next one, because
you're gonna make it a full thing next time.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I had a really good time outside of, even outside the professional capacity. I'd like to just go because I had a really good time. Like I said, not just the people running it, but like all the attendees I met were really nice. Yeah, the guests and also just the attendees were really nice. I had a really good time talking with a lot of the staff there. So yeah, no, I plan on being back. And also I noticed that I was going back through their website, and it actually looked like it wasn't that expensive. I thought it said something like their con rate was like $89 a night or something like that. Don't
Oh, for
quote
the
me on that. I'd
hotel?
have to double check it. Yeah, but it was like
Yeah.
really cheap for the hotel. The hotel's location was kind of interesting though. It's actually technically on government property, which is interesting. It's right by the Air Force Base. So.
Right. So you finish up your interview with John. Do you do anything else exciting for the rest of the day, or do you just kind of meander about?
Yeah, actually. So after the interview with John, I kind of wandered around for a little while, got some more pictures, stuff like that. And then I actually went to there was a mold making and resin casting panel that was done by Mogchel.
Right.
Mogchel did a lot of really interesting panels. They were completely terrible from my perspective because they were very difficult to film because they kind of required everyone to get up close, and so there's just like bodies everywhere.
Right. But as an attendee.
But as an attendee, they were really cool panels because if you were somebody who was completely new to art like cosplay construction, there's stuff a lot of people hadn't done before. So this one was mold making and resin casting. I've never done that before. One that she did later in the evening was Thermoplastics 101, which is all about like Worbla and stuff like that. So stuff I hadn't really been exposed to. So that was really cool.
All right.
So,
and did you get any footage of those too?
Yeah, I got a little bit, but again, those weren't exactly the easiest to shoot.
Yeah. So, if we could time machine this shit, right? If we could Doc and Marty this,
right?
Would you have wanted to set aside some time to actually interview Mogshell and talk to her in depth about more of this cosplay stuff, or
yeah, that would have been nice. Yeah, that would have been nice. Those people were a lot busier after their panels because a lot of people had questions, about like, just questions raised about the whole process in general.
Sure,
whereas a lot of
questions.
A lot of the other people I got interviews with, they didn't really have a lot going on after their panels. So I was like, hey, would you like to, do you have time to do this or whatever? So also at some point, I don't remember the exact time this happened. The whole day is a little bit of a blur because I only got a few hours of sleep, drove to Dayton, and then was there basically until like 1 something in the morning. But at some point around the time of that mold making and resin casting panel, around 4 to 5 in the afternoon, I got an interview with Samuel, the guy in charge of the gaming room and also Otaku Clubhouse, which is the group that was running the board gaming section. I managed to get him away from there for a little bit, but he was pretty busy.
And did you stop to play board games, see what was going on there, or?
I didn't actually, because I was trying to stay pretty mobile, and the games I figured would take a while. Late in the evening, I actually played. 1 second.
Did you get the name of the game?
Yeah, I'm getting it. I actually played a card game by the name of Sushi Go. That was pretty interesting. Yeah, I did. I have a menu, quote unquote, of all the different games they had because it was originally supposed to be a maid cafe, but then they couldn't serve food in the hotel because the hotel, I think, required that they use their on-site catering from their bar restaurant thing.
Right.
So then they decided to change it into a board game kind of room. So yeah, no, I ended up playing something, but not until much later after everything was kind of winding down.
Gotcha.
Pretty much once I was kind of too tired to be running around anymore and there wasn't a lot of other stuff happening, I was like, all right, yeah.
So I think one more interview in the day, right? It was the Dragon Age. Right.
So after all that, around 6:30, the Dragon Age panel by Siren Heart started. So that was also pretty interesting. I was expecting it to mostly be like people who are fans of Dragon Age, but I was the only person that had even played a Dragon Age game there. initially. Some other people showed up later that had played it, but initially I was the only one. So a lot of it was, just talking about the game, why the game's interesting, talking about like its lore and stuff like that. And then afterwards, I got a quick interview with her.
And that about wrapped up the night, right? Besides the whole breakdown thing.
More or less. There was closing ceremonies shortly after that. That started a little bit late. And then after that, they had a chiptune concert. And that once all that started, that kind of wrapped up my part. I was pretty beat at that point. I remember sitting in the Dragon Age panel, which was around like 7 something, and being like, it's not 11 o'clock at night yet. Like, it felt way later than it was. So by the time it was actually like 10, 11 o'clock at night, I was wiped out.
Right.
And I volunteered to kind of help them break down. Like I said, I had a really good time. I liked a lot of the staff and stuff like that, and I wanted to, if they wanted the help, I wanted to give them a hand, just breaking some stuff down. So I helped them carry a few things out to their van, stuff like that. But overall, it was a great experience.
Okay. Was there like anything that you kind of took away from it, as either as press or as an attendee, that like stood out to you for the convention?
Yeah, like I said, the people, like the people was the biggest part of this convention that stood out, which I know is kind of a weird thing to say, but at a lot of cons, you won't have everyone be this way, but you'll occasionally run into the people that are really snobby for one reason or another. Like, I think you ran into this particularly at TohoCon when you went there. Like, there really wasn't any of that atmosphere at this convention. I think they had a pretty small number, but there was a few people that weren't super pleased for one reason or another. Generally related to the size of the convention. Like, one of the vendors I spoke with wasn't super happy because I think he was expecting it to be a little bit bigger. I think he had kind of wished it was a single day convention instead of a 2-day. And I think a small number of the attendees were unhappy because there wasn't like a ton of stuff going on, like there would be at a much larger convention.
So would those be like the biggest pieces of advice you'd have for John and the people who are running Kabochacon? Is that the takeaway for them, like the things that they could improve on?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, there's only so much you can do with a limited attendee count as well. So some of it, to some degree, it is outside of their control. But yeah, I mean, more stuff to do would definitely be a good thing. For me, it didn't seem like there was a lot of good photo opportunities.
And you said there wasn't even gatherings, right?
As far as I know, there was no gatherings. There may have been, but I didn't see any. Like, I didn't see anything posted about gatherings anywhere. There was a cosplay green room on the schedule, but the doors to the masquerade room where that was being held were closed. So I think what that was actually prep time for the masquerade. I think that was like for the people that were competing in the masquerade to get ready. I think that's what that was for. But I could be wrong about that. So my one thing I would like to see next year personally is maybe like an area to do photos outside. I don't know how convenient that would be. It was also kind of like half raining this year, so.
Now,
but
why would you want that? I mean, I know the answer, but if you could explain to people why you'd want to move the photography area outside.
The lighting inside conventions is generally terrible. It might not seem like it if you're just a regular attendee walking around, but the lighting's usually somewhat dim, and the temperature of the lighting is generally awful depending on where you are. So it will make everyone look, say, orange if it's like particularly warm lighting, which it was at this convention. And some of that you obviously can't help. It's the venue, but
right.
a lot of conventions will have gatherings at specific places outside so you can get good pictures under natural light.
Gotcha. Okay, so do you feel pretty comfortable leaving it there? Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Oh, one other thing. I kind of touched on it earlier, but if that's another problem with this convention that has to do with its location is food. There really isn't anything that's like super close.
So let's say you
Like
had stayed there for the 3 days, right? What are the convenient options?
Um, as far as I could tell, there may have been something closer, but when I did a quick, Google search on my phone of like food near me, I
Mhm.
all the stuff I got was like, 1 to 2 miles away kind of deal. So if you didn't really have a car, you'd probably be kind of stuck.
So
Like if you
maybe
had
if
gotten
you could
dropped
try
there.
and convince the hotel to bring in some outside food,
Yeah,
because
that would
apparently
help.
people weren't willing to pay the price, and maybe you could just charge extra to have some catering
yeah,
or something.
yeah, I don't know how capable they are of doing that, but that would definitely help. Yeah, but those are like my two big criticisms. Um, like I said earlier, though, if people are, as long as you know what you're getting into, and it sounds like something you'd be interested in, just like a convention that has a lot of good people at it, that's pretty chill. And you also go in knowing that it's still a relatively small convention. It's a great time. Like I'm definitely going back for sure, one way or another. And I really want to see it succeed. If you're, really only interested in like a giant event that, where you can like go drink and party and stuff like that, then this probably isn't the convention for you. But but yeah, it was a great time otherwise.
Okay. So yeah, we'll leave it on that high note. Kabochacon sounds like it's actually pretty good for the people who live in that area. Would you recommend people from outside the locality driving in or flying in to try the convention out?
I would, as long as you know, like I said, what you're getting into. If you're okay with the fact it's small and it's a family-friendly convention, then yeah, I think it would be worth traveling into it, especially given the fact that the hotel seemed to be pretty reasonably priced on top of
Okay.
all that.
All right. So Kabochacon, go to it. So says Thomas, our man on the street. Do you want to get any smart ass comments in before we sign off, Taylor?
No, I think that was entirely succinct and covered all the points that we would want to hit. And I say good job to Thomas, good job to the people behind Kabochacon. There you have it, folks.
Yeah, maybe we'll actually be able to get out and visit you from California land. So this is Gary signing off. Guys, say your goodbyes.
I'm Taylor.
Adios.
I was distinctly less snarky in this episode.
Yeah, yeah, pretty quiet on this one. But yeah, this is Thomas signing off as well.